now. And I might go to maximum, so hopefully you can see that okay. So literature searching and planning your review. So you have, you're approaching this project in the summer about carrying out some work for PIs or on a particular project, and you want to make sure that you have the correct skills to be able to perform a literature research in a robust and systematic way, and perhaps you might need a few tips on how to approach planning a literature review if this is your first kind of extensive literature review. So an overview of the session today. What I'm hoping to cover is how to access the academic databases that you might use for your search, how to scope out a search to see as a particular see how much literature or publications there are on a particular research topic that you might be looking at. Some approaches to keyword searching and to an alternative way of searching, subject heading searching. I'm going to profile 4 of the key academic databases that would be relevant for people researching health sciences related research projects. And I'm going to explain some of the practicalities about how you might consider reducing, saving, and exporting your search results. Basically, how to manage the results and the references that you would be encountering through your research project. Now, every research project is different. How the search you perform and how you manage your data or information is very much dependent on the project. So I'm going to give some overview of tips to help you with your literature review, but it is up to you to consider how relevant or how they can best apply to your own research project. But there is plenty of help and further information available through the library, through our online resources, and also support. There's also support from our library staff that you can be free to avail of. We're not, the library itself isn't open currently, but our services are still available remotely, so we're more than happy to be there to help you. First, I thought I might run a little poll on Blackboard Collaborate here, just to get a sense of where you are in terms of searching. So I might just kind of bear with me. I haven't used function before. Let's have a question. Okay, then the question there that I hope to share, and I'm just going to add some choices. And then if we could take a quick vote just to show what your practices are for searching. Okay, and just one more option. Okay, so my question is, where would you go to find healthcare information? And your options are Google, Wikipedia, PubMed, academic databases, or Google Scholar. And it's anonymous, so do be honest. A lot of us aren't sure we're searching the right way, or want to would like to know better ways to search. Is kind of why we're here. So do feel free to be honest in your response. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. So most people I can see use PubMed. Some people use Google. There's one person who uses academic databases and one person uses Google Scholar. So that is very interesting, and it's quite typical. PubMed is actually an academic database. It is kind of different in how in how it might appear from other academic databases, but PubMed is actually part of an academic database called MEDLINE. So you are actually using a good source in PubMed, but you may need some fine tune in how you're using PubMed to make sure you're getting relevant results. Okay, so that's very interesting. And I will just go back to here. So that's kind of an overview of what we were going to study. And then I suppose there was one person who said they are accessing databases. Really, if you're working on a literature review, or especially for if you're working on supporting some research for a PI or for an academic, it would be best to use the academic databases that are available to you through RCSI. And if you have a project, as I think many of you do, the databases aren't as challenging as you may think to use, as long as you're following the right steps and you have a good project in which to explore the databases. So I'm going to give you just an overview of the databases first of all, but how you would access them is you would identify which database you might be looking through, and MEDLINE would be the primary database. That's also PubMed, so you could use PubMed for your search, but do try to use it in the way I'm going to advise here. But there are other sources available. It's not just PubMed. So PubMed is a large academic database for healthcare information, but there are also other academic databases that your PIs or academics would be very impressed if you were able to perform searches to find the most literature that's out there on a particular topic. And there's a full list of these available on our A to Z of resources, which is available on the library website, but it's also available through that link there, that libguides.rcsi.ie/az. And you can search through the different resources that we have. So all of the resources that are contained there are either available by subscription from the library or recommended by the library. So there are just 4 academic databases that I've mentioned. So you could type one of them into the search box, and then in the search for the search results, you could access that. And it's important to go through the library links, because you get special access because you have RCSI credentials, because you're students of the college. So it may be when you're searching online for a particular paper, you could be asked to pay for it. And really, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be seeing, is it available through the library. That's why I provide you with the information you need for your studies. Okay, so then the databases that are there. So the primary one is MEDLINE, or PubMed, as some people have said. So most people are aware of PubMed. PubMed is kind of one interface for MEDLINE, but there are others. So you can choose to search MEDLINE through PubMed, and you'll get similar results, or through Ovid or EBSCO. So they're kind of like different interfaces. So PubMed would be like Google, and Ovid would be like Yahoo, or whatever those other interfaces were, and MEDLINE would be the internet. It's all of the results. And then there is another database called MBase, and Scopus, Web of Science, Cochrane. So I'm going to touch on some of these, but the very last is a link to our A to Z of resources and the other resources that are there, of which there are many available from the library. Okay, so here's some approaches when you're scoping out a search, particularly if you're not familiar with this process. You should have a research topic or research question from the PI that you've been assigned to, and really read that question or that topic a few times so you can make sure you understand it and understand what they're trying to get you to investigate or ask you to look at. And you might consider, first of all, what might be included that would help answer this question. You know, are you looking at randomized control trials? Would recent kind of publications be helpful? Is this looking at a particular group, or is this looking at a particular country, perhaps? Is there any characteristics that stand out about this research topic or research question? And then too, you would kind of think out what keywords you might use to search on this topic. Sorry, there's a bit of distortion there. think we're okay now. Okay, so yeah, you would think of what kind of keywords you're going to use, and are there any other similar words that you might use for a particular research topic? Sometimes a research keywords from a research topic, there may be numerous different ones, but I'll give you an example of that. And then there is a way to search a control vocabulary or a medical heading search. So there are two things you might consider, which I'll address in a second. But you also might consider from your research question, is there a time period that you might be looking at? A lot of healthcare information is most relevant from the past 10 or 20 years, so you could assign a time period. Are you looking at a publication type? Do you want to think about just looking at clinical trials, or looking at a systematic review or a review article, rather than a trial? So is there any kind of publication type you could use? And kind of geography or place. Are you looking at this in the context of Ireland or another country? So there's something to give thought about those different questions when you're looking at the research topic that's been assigned to you. So first on keyword searching, I suppose when we're doing Googling and things like that, we're all familiar with using keywords to find what we mean. And keywords are very important, but it's an important thing when you're doing a keyword search. You're finding papers or results where that is mentioned. So it may not be as relevant to your research topic as a keyword, but so when you search a keyword on a database, it's finding where does that word appear anywhere. So it's where it's mentioned. And you might think, if you're looking at a particular topic, are there any other words that express the same meaning for that topic? So if your research project was about back pain, you might consider another word for back pain, like backache or lumbar pain or low back pain. So there are different words, and it helps to kind of spell those out, because if you do a search just for back pain, it won't find as many results as when you search for back pain or backache. Or lumbar pain, or the different variations. And same with if you're looking at a different concept. If you're looking for adolescent back pain, you might think there are many different words for adolescent, like adolescent or teenager or youth. So you might map them out, the different words that you could use, to make sure you're not missing out on any research papers that your PI may want to see is published for that research. And then you can narrow the search in an academic database by putting two concepts together. So if you're looking at back pain and you're looking at in adolescence, then you could join it up to see if there are any papers where back pain and teenager or young person are mentioned together. So it's and or. You may be familiar with that from searching, but it's very, very key to make sure you're finding the most relevant research or information. So this is kind of what I've meant. So you might do a search for one concept. So it's important, if you have a research project or research topic, to pick out the main keywords. Usually there's 2 or 3 main concepts that you would be investigating, or your PIs investigating. So if one of those concepts is back pain, I might write in purple, I want to find results that mention back pain, but also that results that mention lower back pain or backache. So everything in purple relates to back pain. And then I might look for back pain in the context of adolescence, but there are other words for adolescence, like teenager or youth. So I want to find everything that's linked to that concept of adolescence. But ultimately, I'm looking for the orange here. I'm looking for where these two concepts overlap, or where they intersect, because that's the literature I'm interested in. They've been investigating this kind of area where those concepts come together. So sometimes you would find, when you're doing a search on PubMed, it depends. You're getting a lot of, you've been assigned a research topic. So some research topics there mightn't be a lot of information out there on, and some research topics there might be too much information out there on. So if there isn't enough information on the research topic that you've been given, there are different ways to check to expand your search or make it wider or bigger. So you could put OR between different similar words, as we saw with backache and back pain, and that would, if I put OR between all the words, that multiplies the number of results that are out there. And then there is another option to broaden it out, and that's called truncation. And that is where you put a symbol on word at a certain point in a word, and it finds variations of that word. So our example was adolescence and back pain. And if I type adolescent and I put an asterisk there, that should find everything that comes after that word. So it finds the root of the word and anything that comes afterwards. So that would find adolescent, singular, adolescence, and it would also find the plural adolescents. So you would find more search results by using that. Then there's proximity searching. So that is that's telling a database you can that you want to search for keywords that are within a certain distance from each other. So there's a symbol called N, and you put a number, and that would search for where two words appear not next to each other but close to each other. So back N4, pain would find pain in the back. So that might be helpful to broaden out your search. Also, you can a database, when you're searching a database, will usually ask you, do you want to search all fields? Do you want to search by title, or do you want to search by author, or how do you want to search? So if you want to broaden out your search, you could search for where these keywords appear anywhere in the paper or in the article. So all fields or anywhere where in all text. So that's something you could look at when you're doing a search and the database asks you what field you want to search in. You could say every field, as many results as possible. So that's some tips on broadening your search. If you want to narrow your search, then that's where you're finding too much information and you want to kind of get fewer results. So there are ways to do that as well. And one is to connect the different search terms you're using with and to find out the orange where it kind of intersects there. And there's other ways to narrow or reduce your search results. A popular one is if you have two words that appear that you want to that appear next to each other. If you're looking at back pain, you could put them in quotation marks, and that means it will search as a phrase. So it will search for results where those two words appear next to each other. So the examples would be back pain or young adult. I'm just gonna check how we're doing on the chat here. Just a reminder, if anyone has questions, just try and post it to everyone rather than specifically to me, because some people might have the same kind of questions. So if you have any questions, just try and post them through the chat there so everyone can see. Okay, so just go back to where I was there. So then there's the other option that a lot of databases will allow you to narrow by certain limiters. So when you do a search in PubMed or in any other database, usually on the left-hand side, it'll allow you to pick a date range. So your PI might ask you to just look at papers about this topic, about back pain in young people from the last 10 years to see are there any recent drugs. Or you might say just look for randomized control trials or systematic reviews. Or she might say to look at studies that are published just in Europe or in the US. So you can use filters or limiters that appear on the left to narrow your results further. And then another way to narrow is to where we searched in all fields, you can get a bit more specific. You have a keyword like back pain or adult, and you want to search for it just in title or abstract. So if you search for it within abstract, usually if back pain or another concept appears in the abstract, then it's going to be very relevant to that topic, to back pain, because it appears in the abstract, and the abstract is the introduction. It gives a view of what the rest of the article is about. So if your keywords appear in the abstract, then you usually know that it's going to be a major part of this article. Okay. So another way to search is through subject headings. So subject heading is a word or a phrase that is used in a database to uniformly describe a concept. So there are a lot of different words for the same thing in the English language, basically. And if you do a search for pressure ulcers, you might also, in a keyword, you might also need to search for bed sores or pressure sores, or there are many different variations on that term. If you do a subject heading search, it finds one entry for that one term. So it's a very useful way to capture results that you may have missed through your keywords. Also, when you do a subject heading search, it's a bit different from a keyword search in that when you search by subject heading, it'll find results that are primarily concerned with that topic. So not just, sometimes a researcher might mention back pain in passing in an article, but it's not really about back pain, it's about leg pain. Whereas if you find an article that has a subject heading of back pain, then you know it is primarily concerned with that topic. So it might be more worth your while to read or investigate that topic. Okay, and another way to use subject headings is you can look broader. So if you're looking at a particular age group of young people, you can narrow that to either adolescents or children. Same with geriatric care. If you're looking at adults, you can look at adults between 65 or over 80, and a subject heading will allow you to narrow a bit further into a particular group. It'll also allow you to look at a specific aspect of your topic. So it'll allow you to look at drug therapy for back pain if you do a search on back pain, or if you're looking at prevention and control of back pain, it'll allow you to select that. So they're very, very useful headings to use, especially if you want to narrow or make sure you want an overview of a particular topic. So they have different names. If you're using PubMed, it's called Mesh. If you're using MEDLINE on EBSCO or CINAHL, it's called their subject headings, or on its M3 on the database MBase. So then I wanted to give you an overview of those four main databases. So the largest database is MEDLINE PubMed. So it has over 30 million records, so it's a very large database of academic literature. And because MEDLINE is so large, it's covered on 3 different platforms. So similar kind of results, but 3 different platforms. So you can search on PubMed, on MEDLINE EBSCO, or on MEDLINE Ovid, and ORCSI Library provides access to all of them. It's best, I think, to use the advanced search feature and to break your topic down one concept at a time, as I did with back pain and adolescence there. And you're able to search by the subject headings. I've highlighted them underneath. So you can search for a subject heading for backache by using Mesh on PubMed. Okay, and then there is MBase. So MBase is another large medical database like PubMed, MEDLINE. But it has a more European focus and a more pharmacological focus. So if you're looking at drug therapy or drug research, then that might be a database to use. But it covers MEDLINE, a lot of the contents that's in MEDLINE PubMed, but it has additional content as well. So if you search MEDLINE PubMed or any of the MEDLINEs and you search MBase, that'll give you a very good idea of what's out there on your topic. And if you choose to use subject headings, they have a different name, but they work the same way as the subject headings on MEDLINE. And you can use either quick search or advanced search when you're searching. So that's a sample topic there. I can search for all fields if I want to find the maximum number of results on teenagers, or I can search for where does teenager appear in the title or the abstract, or I can search for teenager or adolescent as an entry or a subject heading term. Okay. Now, so that's so this is Cochrane, and this is another database, and this is kind of recommended for another for a few reasons, but it's a database of systematic reviews. So systematic reviews, if someone does a systematic review of a topic, they've done a lot of work on the topic. They found out all the research that's in that area. So if you find a research topic on your own or if you find a systematic review on the topic you're looking at, it'll give you a very good overview of other literature or other evidence that's out there. So it's very helpful. And on Cochrane, you can search in a search box for a title and abstract as well. So there'll be a fewer number of results, but the results you'll get will have a very high level of evidence. So it's something that systematic reviews are in this particular database or something that academics would like to see or be aware of. You can also, if you're looking for results if you're looking at results in Cochrane, there are other reference lists, so you could use it to find other papers that are in that reference list or mentioned there, or other search strategies that are used. So there's usually a section in the results that show what did that person use as their search terms when they were looking at this topic, and that might give you ideas of how to do your own search. Okay, and then there's Scopus. So really, if you're doing a MEDLINE and an MBase search, it may not be necessary for you to do a search in this other database. But just so you're aware of, it's different from the other ones in that it's multidisciplinary. So that means it goes beyond healthcare a bit, and it finds literature in healthcare journals, but also in other journals. So depending on your topic might be related a bit to education, or it might be related to social science. It depends very much on the topic. But if you did a search on MEDLINE and you did a search on MBase and you'd like to find a little bit more information just in case, you could do a search on Scopus as well. And one person mentioned Google Scholar there. I just thought I'd mention Google Scholar, and to use it has certain advantages and certain disadvantages. So Google Scholar is useful for getting a big picture around a research topic, and it covers a lot of different kind of papers that are there. It's kind of a wider database, and another advantage is that it links to what ORCE Library already have access to, or it can do that. But it has some negatives that I'd like you to be aware of as well. That it's just we don't really know what or how much is in Google Scholar, or if it misses anything, or how often it's updated. And you'll see that there are a lot of irrelevant items in Google Scholar, so it's harder to work with than a database, and it's very hard to narrow your results. You get a lot of results on the first page, but sometimes they're not really as relevant, or you're not able to kind of narrow them in a way that you can with MEDLINE, PubMed, or another academic database. So just be wary of Google Scholar. But if you're going to be using it, you can set up a link to ORCSI content, and that's available in the settings of Google Scholar. And you can set up a link to your library, and your library would be Royal College of Surgeons. And then if you do that, you can search, and the results should be on the right-hand side, the access to the Royal College of Surgeons library. Okay, so I might just, how are we doing for time? Okay, I thought I might just demonstrate how I might approach a search on this topic. So I'm looking at back pain in adolescents, and this is how I might break down this particular topic for searching. So I might just share my screen with you for searching. So I'll stop sharing now, and I want to share my entire screen. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to MEDLINE on my A to Z of resources. I've typed in MEDLINE and I'm going to search for MEDLINE. And I'm going to pick MEDLINE EBSCO because I like this one for how it's laid out for search. And if I want to access MEDLINE, click here. Okay, and then I'll pick MEDLINE. Okay, so this is my search box. So I'm going to do a search for back pain, first of all. And you see I have one line in my search prepared here. So I am going to type in back pain or low back pain or lumbar pain or chronic lobar pain. So are there any other words I can think of for back pain? And I'll click search. Okay, and that has done a search for a keyword search for back pain, but it's finding a lot of results. One thing I could choose to do here is I'm searching for all those different terms, but under select a field, I might pick abstract. So that would find where any of these results are mentioned in the introduction or the abstract. So that would mean the rest of the article would be mentioning would be very much about those topics. So I'll search there. Okay, and that's 49 results. And then if I want to do a subject heading search, I would click that box. And then I could search back pain. So a subject heading search on back pain will find results that are very much about, they're primarily concerned with back pain. So I'll click back pain and low back pain, and I will explode to get the most number of results, or I can just press the green button and search the database. Okay, so then I get my keywords for back pain and my subject heading for back pain, and I'm going to search with OR. Okay, so that's found any papers where back pain is mentioned in the abstract or someone has tagged a result as being about back pain. Okay, and then I do the same for adolescent. Sorry, just a second now. So next I'm going to concept 2, which is adolescence. And you see here I put in a little bit of truncation. I put in a comment that'll search for teen or teens or teenager or teenagers. So it's going to increase the number of variations on my keywords. So I should find more results. But I'm going to search in an abstract. So I'm going to search the introductions for those words, see where they feature prominently. Okay, let's find a lot of results there. And then, just as I did for my first concept, I'm going to search a keyword for adolescent, or a subject heading for adolescent. So adolescent as a subject heading. It's asking me, do I want to look at a particular type of a particular aspect of adolescence, like legislation about adolescence, but the answer is I just want to search for any articles that mention adolescence. Okay, and that's found a large number of results here. So I'm searching for a keyword for adolescent or a subject heading, and I click, sorry, it's very easy to make a mistake here. So I try that again. I am searching for where adolescent is mentioned as a keyword, or where it is mentioned as a subject heading, and I select with OR. And then my last step is to take my first concept, which is back pain, and my second concept, which is adolescence, and I find out where they intersect. And that finds 7,800 results on that particular topic. So I wonder, would anyone have any ideas on how I can? Obviously, 7,800 results is far too many to sift through. I wonder, would anyone have any ideas on how I could reduce the number of results? So my search for adolescence and back pain found too many results. How can I find? Okay, so my search for adolescents and back pain found too many results. Would anyone have any idea how I could reduce the number of results in the database? So I have one suggestion here, which is change the date. That's a very good suggestion. Full text only is another suggestion. Yeah, that's great. So what I could do here, I'll just say if anyone else has any suggestions, and then I'll take those and just see what I can do with them. Region location, very good. Yeah. Okay, so let's see where we are with that, with those suggestions. Add another concept, yeah. So I might just go, I'll just go back to sharing the screen then. Okay, so yeah, one of the suggestions was to change the date, and I can do that. You see, if I go to my results and my edit button here, so that'll allow me to change the dates of the publication. So I can change it to the last 10 years if I want, and look at that. I can look for full text only as well. Or there's other things I could do in the edit section here. But someone else made the point of adding an additional concept. That's a good idea, actually. So if I'm looking at, sometimes you might be looking at a specific aspect of back pain in adolescence, and I might look at how anti-inflammatories affect that. So if I'm looking at anti-inflammatories or the kind of drug treatments like that, I can do a keyword search under abstract for anti-inflammatories or any other words I might look at there. I can see the subject heading for anti-inflammatories, anti-inflammatory agents. Okay. Okay, and I'm doing exactly what I did before. I'm finding the keyword or the subject heading. So where that's mentioned in the abstract or where someone has decided that that's what it's about. And that's found a number of results. So what I can do now is I can link my three concepts together. And I can pick my back pain, adolescence, and anti-inflammatories. And I link them with and to find out where they overlap. Okay, and that's 192. So adding a third concept really helps. If I'm to look at my results, they're beneath here, and I can do some of the other suggestions that people said. I can narrow by date here, the past 10 years, or that's the past 1 year I've done, so that's the past 10 years. Yeah, And then I can look by geography or other kind of headings. I can also select edit to narrow further. So there are, as with the suggestions there are many different ways to narrow down your search. Okay, so let's go back now to the presentation and just some with some other details I have here. So reducing search results. Okay, so this is the question: how do you reduce the search results? So you can use the filters there. They're usually on the left, and you can narrow by date or publication. You can add an additional concept or additional study type. There's no magic number about how many results are the right number of results. That's a conversation really to have with your supervisor about how many results they're happy with and how much time you have available for searching. And you might need to reduce or refine in a way that you and your supervisor are happy with. Just to make notes, if you make any kind of revisions along the way or any or make a decision to reduce your search results, do take a note of it, of what you did and why you chose to do that. Okay, so next, and then is for saving search results, it's a good idea to set up an account in the database you're using. So you can set up an account in PubMed or in EBSCO, or MEDLINE EBSCO, the one I showed there, or MBase. Any of them you can set up accounts, and you can opt to be notified of any changes to that subject area. So if you're working on this for a few weeks, you can set up a notification to see are there any new publications that are published on that topic. Some people play around with search strategies, as I've done there. They do a search one at a time, and they take screenshots of the different search strategies. So if that works for you, that's fine. But the important thing, my last point here, is to have a process to save your search results. Have some kind of process, whatever it is, whether it's saving or exporting, and make sure that you or your primary investigator are able to stand over those searches, and you'd be able to run those searches again if possible, or if asked to do that. Okay, if you're saving the search results, these are the different databases. So usually there is a sign in for your account to save them, or a login on PubMed, or if you're searching and anywhere says save, you just save what you do, so you're not doing the same search again and again. You can just go in and rerun it and save it again. So once you have a good strategy, you'd only need to do it once as long as you save it. Then if you're going to export your search results, a good piece of software to use is EndNote X9. So it's a reference management software, and we have a guide in the library, a LibGuide on how to use that. But it's very useful if you're working through a lot of references, if you're going to be spending the rest of the summer doing that, because it is software that's available through RCSI. So this will format references. It'll also remove duplicates if you're searching in different places. So if you're doing a search anywhere, if you're doing it on PubMed, you can select the Save To option and save your results to EndNote if you have it downloaded, or in a database sometimes it'll say export, and you can export the results out. You can also, if you're having trouble finding a full text, someone mentioned full text on the chat there, you can search through our e-journals, which is available through that A to Z resources again, and you can look for a particular journal, see do we have it. So that's just on the right there, e-journal portal of the A to Z resources. So that's what it looks like. And if you have the details of the journal, like physiotherapy, you can type it in, and you can search by the details you have. That's if you're trying to view an article that you've saved. Okay, so I mentioned EndNote there. We do get some questions about that when people are doing searches or managing their results. So basically, it's a way for you to store and gather the references of results all together, and you are able to add references from exporting them from databases, or you can add them into EndNote manually, and you can connect it with Microsoft Word, so you can make reference lists in Microsoft Word. So we've a guide available through the library. There's a link to it there, which is step-by-step guide on how to use EndNote. It's also available from that link on the IT Services website if you want to download it. But basically, that's how it looks there. I did a search and I moved all my references into EndNote. I also put in the PDF, so everything concerned with that search is put into EndNote, and then I can open up a Word document, and if I have EndNote installed, I can connect it up using that window there and insert references into my Word documents. What EndNote could be useful as well if you're looking at your research project and you've narrowed it down to a handful of papers. You've decided that only this number of papers are the results I want to look at and do a literature review on. There's a section, and you put all your references in there, there's a section in EndNote called the research notes, and you could type in, after you've read a paper, you could type in the notes that you have about that paper into EndNote, into that reference in EndNote, and save it on your desktop. And that would mean that you'd be able to go back at any stage through EndNote and pick out the notes that you made on that topic when you're putting your literature review all together. Okay, I was just going to go through some literature results tips. What I thought, just put in another quick poll there. If I can, so I'll stop doing that, and this will be multiple choice as well. So, which of the following would you favor for saving and working with your search results? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask about EndNote, ask about whether you do screenshots, you'd set up a database account, or whether you'd opt for emails or alert. Okay, so which of the following would you favor for searching and working with your search results if you're doing a search in a database? Okay, so just a few more. Answer. Okay. Right, so I'll just close the poll in a second now. Okay, so that's interesting. So a lot of people, 8 people have said they'd find they think EndNote might be useful. So that's good to hear. And as I say, that's something you can download as an RCSI student through the website. I would say to check out our LibGuide. I have the link in there. We can give you the link to LibGuides at the end of the session as well. But it would be very useful to get that started. And the screenshots, yeah, a lot of people favor taking screenshots of search strategies. If that works for you, just don't lose the screenshots, I guess. And database accounts, yeah, are very, very useful. So, yeah, and not many people favoring emails or alerts. That's fair enough. Like those first 3 ways of managing your search results will be very useful. So Nicola has put in a link to our LibGuides there, and so if those 8 people want to check out that LibGuide, which has all the information you need in setting up EndNote, please do that. Okay, and then I thought I would share some Just overall tips on literature review. So if this is the first time you've done a literature review at this level, consider when you have the research topic that's been assigned. So consider what you're trying to find out with your literature review. When you're reading papers, when you're deciding on them, you should think about, how does this help me answer that research question? Or does it help me answer the research question? So have that in the back of your mind, what the purpose is all the time. Take notes. Don't think that you'll remember details about which paper is which. If you're looking at 20 papers or something like that, even if they're short notes and they're quick overviews, just make sure you're taking notes on the content. And once you put those notes together at the end, you'll be able to make connections. And that's kind of what the literature review is, to make connections between what's already published out there. Okay, and when you're looking at, when you've made your notes, try to see, is there any kind of key things that stand out? Are there any key concepts or particular themes that come out from the notes you've made or the papers you're looking at? Is there something that's coming up again and again that you could organize under a particular theme? And then, yeah, put the research question in its wider context. You might have a research question, and the literature you're reading really has a lot to say about that research question. So always consider the literature in terms of the context of that research topic you're looking at. And think about, what are the differences between the papers you've read? Are there any things that seem, is there any argument that you agree with stronger, or is there any instance where one person favors one approach of treatment and one favors a slightly different one? Are there any differences you could see between them? So there are just some tips which could be useful for looking over a literature review. I always find as well, if you read a paper, if you read it once and you've made a few notes, try to put the paper away and make notes quickly after you've read it of what you remember about it, and usually they'll be the most important things about the paper. So a couple of tips of that's just my perspective. Hope that might be helpful for you when you're at this stage of approaching it. This isn't as relevant, but there are other software products depending on these aren't library products, but depending on how much time you have available and what data you're working with. Stata is available. It's a statistical package that's available from RCSI, and there's guidance from the Data Science Center if part of your research is a meta-analysis. There's also, if you're looking at loads and loads of different papers, there's a free web tool called Ryan, which helps people put together data, but really they're only at a very very high level. If your researcher says you might consider using that, then there's support available to use those two packages, but that may not be something you need. Okay, so it's just a little about 4 o'clock. I just wanted to finish up by giving some support information. So first of all is our LibGuides. So our RCSI LibGuides are documents that we've created, RCSI staff have created, that give key advice on our services and on our resources. So do check it out. There's different guides on particular topics. So there's one on finding information. There's one on EndNote. There's one where we're keeping that we keep updated about how our remote access to the library is working. So they're very, very, very useful. We use them a lot and we update them frequently to make sure they're most relevant for your frequently asked questions. So that's our menu of LibGuides, and that's the link just there. We're also on Moodle, so if you're using Moodle, you can get a quick link to our Moodle page or to our LibGuides or our A to Z of resources or our website. But there's support available on Moodle as well. And lastly, feel free to contact us when you've checked out the LibGuides and you've looked at this presentation, and if you feel that you need a little more help using the resources, or if you have a few questions, I just ask maybe email library and give us a sense of what you want help with. Is it your literature search? Is it strategy that you'd like to talk out with us, or is it a systematic review related topic? So we're happy to help you. Basically, even though we are operating remotely. So if you do have any queries, please do send us an email. So that's all I had to say today. Leave the contact there. I know there were a few questions on the chat. It's really great to have the opportunity to speak to you about this topic. And like I say, I hope this session was helpful for you. So thanks, Katya, for inviting me. Thanks to Nicola for answering questions on the chat. And other than that, I leave the contact details there for a while if anyone wants to take that down. But I hope you'll make my colleague Andrew's sessions on research. I know that they'll be the details of those will be on the Instagram account as well. So that'd be a session worth attending. But thanks very much, everyone, and have a good day and enjoy the weekend.
Thank you very much, Niall, for delivering such a great talk. I hope it was of help to everyone doing literature reviews. Like you said, I just want to remind everyone that the next workshop will be with Andrew on July 30th at 3 p.m. And I know there was some confusion with the calendar invite about Microsoft Teams and Blackboard. It was a mistake on our end, so we apologize about the confusion, but we'll make sure for next time that it's only the Blackboard link that you get and not a Microsoft Teams link. So we apologize for that, and if you did miss the beginning part of the talk while we were sorting that issue out, this video will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and the link can be found in our link tree on Instagram. So thank you again, Niall and Nicola, for helping us out today.
Thanks very much.